Welcome back to Chelsea Chat with me, Dan Welch, adding just a little bit of neutrality to this podcast, and Jamie Bunce, long-time Chelsea fan and strong supporter, who is our guru of all things Chelsea. So just want to say, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment on our videos and hit that bell notification to be notified of any future videos that we do upload. We hope that you enjoy this one. Right, as I just said, let's get started.
Chelsea, 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 Chelsea.
So Jamie, a few things to discuss. Want to touch on the game we just had yesterday, Sheffield United and Chelsea, which is something I'm really looking forward to talking with you about. But first of all, let's touch on the Rennes game. Another good performance, I think, and a good result, and another clean sheet for Eduardo Mendy. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, we looked really, really good in that game. I think it was probably a result we would have expected. They're not the strongest of opposition. They didn't play badly, but we just kind of dominated, especially the first half and maybe the first 15 minutes of the second half. After that, I think, Frank started to bring on some of the more fringe players and giving them a bit of time in their legs, giving them a bit of a run out. So it slowed down a little bit there where, they were trying to get rid of some of that rustiness. But no, overall, fantastic performance. Good to see. Good to see some more goals as well, not just getting the clean sheet, but putting away some of those chances. I think it was a bit of a shock for me anyway that Havertz wasn't playing until I realised why. So it turns out that Havertz has caught COVID. So he obviously couldn't play. But looking around that, I think the team and the way he laid it out looked pretty good. Kante playing in the number 8 position was a bit of a surprise. I thought he was going to play a 4-2-3-1 off the back of Havertz not being available, but he pushed Kante forward instead and had Jorginho.
What about Tammy Abraham and Timo Werner scored in this game, and as they did in the Sheffield United game. Is this causing a little bit of a selection problem for Lampard? I see some things in the news where he's not quite playing Werner in his preferred position, even though he's getting great stuff out of Werner, right? Mm-hmm. But that kind of, those two who are doing so great, arguably maybe working together or just scoring separately. I'm not really sure what your thoughts on that are, but is that causing a bit of a selection kind of problem? A nice problem to have.
Yeah, I think if you looked at it at the beginning of the season, you would have said that the kind of formation would have been a 4-3-3 with Pulisic on one side, Ziyech on the other, Werner up front. But I think the way that Abraham is playing, I think, you could say he is causing a bit of a headache. Obviously, it's come through necessity from Pulisic getting injured. But Abraham seems to be taking his chances, and from what I've been watching him play, he seems to have adapted his game a little bit, and almost I'm wondering if he spent a bit of time on the training ground with Giroud, because he seems to be dropping deeper and helping up with that build-up play a bit more, which is exactly what Giroud's strengths are. And if Abraham's going to be able to do that, as well as the fact that he's fairly big, he can get behind as well. He's got a bit of pace, so he's adapting his game, and he's looking like he really is up for the fight to try and get that position. So. It really is giving him a headache. I think, once Pulisic is fit again, then Lampard's really got some decisions to make. But I would say that this season, more than any, people are having to rotate their teams a lot more and rest players, especially with the way, Champions League has been every single week. So I think players getting tired, it's perfect for us really that we've got more options now to have Abraham come in if we wanted to give Timo a rest, which Timo's not had a rest since he's come in.
It was it that game? I think he was going to get rested, and then
it was last weekend he was meant to get a rest, and then Pulisic got injured during the warm up, so Werner came in to play left wing. So I think eventually he could get a rest once Pulisic is back, but
I think it's obviously a danger, right? You want to rest them as well, but also they're on a scoring run, 5 games in 4 after the Sheffield game now. But if any player is adaptable, I think, or willing to adapt, I think Werner absolutely is. And, it's not that he's not playing well, So I think it's a nice headache to have, but I think they'll all be willing to kind of make it work. And actually, Tammy Abraham starts to become a bit more like a Giroud, that doesn't clash in my eyes with a player of Timo Werner's kind of capabilities. So I think potentially they could kind of mould into a bit of a nice strike force there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to kind of what I'm excited to talk about is the Sheffield United game. So Chelsea could have scored in the 6th minute, right? So I don't want to say it was a slow start, but a little bit kind of, I guess maybe needed to wake up a few players at the start, and then we're given that kind of shock of Sheffield United scoring. So, forgetting about how Sheffield played for the rest of the game and how Chelsea picked themselves up, in your view, why did that happen? Why did that goal go in, and kind of what were Chelsea lacking in those first few minutes?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it was necessarily a slow start from Chelsea more than a really strong start from Sheffield. I think, considering the results last season where, at Stamford Bridge, it was 2-2, away at Bramall Lane, they absolutely spanked us 3-0. I think they probably had a bit of confidence going into that game, thinking, we know how to beat this team. We've done it before. We've done it well. We've done it convincingly. So let's go for it. Let's go at them. And that's what happened in that 3-0 game at Bramall Lane. They came out strong and fast. And we were still waking up at that point, and they put 3 past us before we even blinked. So I think, they probably thought, what, let's go and do that again. Let's go and get some goals early doors and put it to bed early. Luckily, we're a bit stronger this year. We've got some more kind of secure heads at the back who can, secure things up, as I said. Thiago Silva's been playing fantastic. He's up for player of the month this month. Which is just testament to how well he's done coming into a new league at his age. And I think, the goal was disappointing because it came from a corner again. But it was a well worked corner. They put it out to the edge of the box, 1 pass, 2 pass, and then it would be McGoldrick, who seems to only score against Chelsea. I think he scored 4 Premier League goals in his career, and 3 of them have come against Chelsea. So that kind of says it all, really. He just loves to score against us. So
I think Mendy's first goal conceded in about 375 minutes, I think it was, if I'm not incorrect.
Yeah, that's his first Premier League goal conceded. The only other goal he conceded for Chelsea was the Carabao Cup against Spurs. Lamela scored.
And look, mate, we were talking about this at the start of the season. That's the difference it makes, right? Yeah, I know the team seems to be gelling together, but that kind of rock at the back, he had a little bit of a shake where he spilled the ball later on in the game, but then he quickly jumped on it. And to be honest with you, fine, maybe it plays in a different position, but things happen, right? And I think he's looking really solid there. So really, really nice to see that. So I'm going to make a bit of a very poor link. So Ziyech came from Ajax. Dutch is a bit like German. So they say their S is like a Z. So I'm going to call it the Super Ziyech show this game. Very, very poor link. You can take that one if you want to. But yeah, I just think absolutely incredible play. Just really wants to get on the ball. I think he's like passionate about the passes he makes, and he wants to get those assists. Whereas, often players love to get a goal, but I remember at the end of the game, he chipped it to Werner, and Werner did the chip, and it looked like going. I just remember the camera going back to Ziyech, and he just looked so disappointed because he was so happy with the pass. He just wanted it to become a goal. Absolutely incredible play from him. Just zipping the ball around. Give me some of your thoughts.
He was unplayable yesterday. I think he was absolutely outstanding. I said this at the beginning of the season that looking at all of the signings we brought in and all the money we'd spent, everyone was looking at Werner, everyone was looking at Havertz. No one was paying too much attention to the fact that we have Ziyech. I think probably mainly because we'd signed him back in February, and obviously he couldn't go through until the summer, and then COVID came in and everything kicked off. So I think everyone was kind of sleeping on Ziyech a little bit, but you just knew that he was kind of tailor-made to come into this team and do what we needed, which was when you've got teams that are playing the low block and just sitting back and defending against us, you need someone who's got that pass in them to break a team down and just to break the lines and get through. And we haven't had that for years. Willian should have been that player, but most of his deliveries were always never beating the first man. He slowed things down a lot. Whereas Ziyech, he just, as soon as he gets the ball, he wants to play the pass, the Pirlo, the
Willian's a bit
Fabregas
too
pass.
focused on scoring goals, I think. Whereas I think it's an important part of anyone's game. But like I said at the start, Ziyech is he's really keen to make those passes. And as Lampard said at the end of the game, he's having a great impact on the whole team, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. So
yeah, and I think one of the keys is the fact that he's a right winger who's left-footed, which is kind of what we've needed. Where Willian is right-footed, playing on the right wing, so he has to take it down the line and cross it in. But Ziyech can cut it back and whip a ball in with that wand of a left foot he's got, and just make things happen. And it's almost like having a Fabregas or a Pirlo on the wing. Because that passing range he's got, and even sometimes he can shoot from there. And I've seen some goals he scored for Ajax where he's just bent it in from that kind of range and just top bins. He's got a fantastic left foot, and I think that's going to be such a benefit for us for this season. And it's worrying for players like Hudson-Odoi because when Pulisic is on form, when Ziyech is playing like this, where's Hudson-Odoi getting into the team? He's only going to come in for cup games or some of these small Champions League group games. So he's got to really start working very hard in the training ground to try and get into this team. Yeah,
you're right. You're absolutely right. But, that is obviously a problem. And obviously we like to see British coming through. But if you look at Tammy Abraham, he's seen that. You have to up your game. You have to use these opportunities to up your game and kind of get better. So, again, staying on Ziyech, zipped it in from the corner. Big old boy, 36-year-old, kind of seems to have better agility than I do at 28. Gets his head on it and kind of scores a goal. I think Thiago Silva, he just looks like he's enjoying the game. As you said earlier, with Mendy providing that kind of security at the back. Kind of thoughts on Thiago Silva?
Yeah, as I said, I mean, up for player of the month, so you can see how well he's done. I think I saw it mainly in the firstly, like in the Sevilla game, the benefit he has, not just his ability on the ball or defending, but that leadership and communication that we've been talking about ever since we've started this podcast is what we've been needing at the back. And he's just come in and you can see him, someone who doesn't speak very good English, commanding everyone around, telling them where to go, what to do. And it's mainly the key one I saw was from like a goal kick. And obviously we, like most teams now, we try to play out from the back. And so, you'll see a lot of these short passes and then we're under pressure straight away. But he'll see, oh no, it's not a good idea to play a short pass from here. So he'll order everyone up the pitch and get the goalkeeper to send it forward. And it's just that knowledge, that awareness, that, reading of the game that is so important that he's brought in, and he's just calmed everyone down. I think it helps that, you've got Zuma playing alongside him. You've got Mendy behind him. They all French speakers. Sometimes you'll have Azpilicueta next to him, who's a French speaker, Kante in front of him, who's a French speaker. So he's got, the language barrier isn't as bad when he's got all these players around him that can speak that language and can, guide him as well in terms of what to say and
makes him feel a little bit more homely as well.
And it can help pass the message around the team, if he's got a message to give off. Because he was captain yesterday because Jorginho didn't start, Azpilicueta didn't start, so and he really screams captain material, who just does everything we needed in that role. Obviously the worry is going to be the fact that he's getting older now, so how long can we rely on him to be there? Obviously this season I think he's going to be great the whole season, but then next season or the season after we have to then start to think about what we can do to replace him, which is going to be very, very tough, finding someone with that kind of leadership.
You really need someone to latch themselves onto Thiago Silva in that other centre-back position now and then grow with him. But that's kind of what I wanted to move on to, and I'll touch on it in a minute. I just want to touch on Sheffield United. If you look at when they beat Chelsea 3-0 5 months ago now, to today or yesterday's game, just looked really messy, nervous, fussy, kind of not speaking to one another. Look, Ziyech's ball over to Chilwell when he scored was a nice goal, but as Jermaine Gina said on Match of the Day, it just hit him, right? Ramsdale just seemed to be talking to each other at all, no one. So that was a little bit of a shame to see, and it would hopefully they can come together more as a team and start gelling as we hope Chelsea would do at the start of the season, and that's kind of what wasn't happening for Sheffield. But as you just touched on, right? So Chelsea need to start thinking about Thiago Silva and kind of moving on from him. Actually, probably starting now. Who from Chelsea really didn't kind of perform well? Zuma was okay, but maybe, if we didn't have someone as strong as Thiago Silva, do you reckon, or was more of a stronger team, his kind of not playing as well might have shown itself? What do you think? I'm just trying to think about.
I think the thing with Zuma is sometimes it can look like he's not had a good game, even when he has. I think because he's a little clumsy, and when he jumps to win an aerial battle, he's got limbs flying everywhere, so he gives away quite a few free kicks. When, like, even in the midfield area, if the ball is played up by the goalkeeper, he'll come and claim that ball, but he'll probably give away a foul. It happens quite a lot. But I think he frightens people. When he's going for the ball in the air, he gives a bit of a scare to the strikers. And bar the first goal, McGoldrick and Brewster, they didn't have a sniff the whole game, really. Like, there was nothing that I think I saw, it was a stat after probably about 65 minutes that Brewster had 5 touches of the ball. Till the 65th minute, he'd had 5 touches of the ball. And bearing in mind, the next one after him was like 17, I think, touches. So he really had no impact on the game. And McGoldrick, he got that goal, but really, what else did he do? And I think, well, as I said, whilst Zuma may look a bit clumsy and stuff sometimes, they marshalled those two very well. And it's not often, even now in the Premier League, you don't come up against 2 strikers very often. So it's a different approach that you have to take defensively. But they managed to handle it very well, as I said, other than that first goal. So I wouldn't say Zuma had a bad performance at all. He wasn't, outstanding as he has been sometimes, but I think he was a very solid, kind of average performance, I would say.
Yeah. And okay, so look, we've touched on the game. We've touched on quite a few points. But for me, kind of, that's another win for Chelsea. Yes, drew to United. Would have hoped maybe a bit more could come out of that one, but referees against Chelsea and versus United, we can talk about that for days. It's always been a bad route, right? And then referees United these days, or even just the VAR. So we could go on that for ages. So let's just move on from that one. But 1 point off the top of the table now, right? Yes, Liverpool got to play, so maybe that will extend. But in third, when we made these predictions at the start of the season, I was like, shit, I should not have bid for Chelsea to win the league, right? But things have settled up. The only thing I can say is Chelsea got a big squad. If injuries come, that could be an issue. But to me, it's looking promising. What do you reckon?
I would agree. Yeah, I think the season that we're having obviously is not just Chelsea, but the whole of the Premier League. It's a bizarre year. It's not a usual season. It's not the way things would usually go.
Yeah.
No one really got much of a pre-season.
No.
Massive fixture congestion. It's such a strange season, and goals are being scored left, right, and centre for everyone pretty much. So I think on an average season, you'd say, I think my prediction would have been fairly accurate with, Liverpool and City leading the way again. But we might have been able to just close the gap a little bit more. Now, I would say that actually it's going to be a lot closer. I still think Liverpool are probably going to go ahead and win the league. I think they had one dodgy result, which was a bad day at the office, very bad day at the office for them. But other than that, they've, even in the games they haven't played well, they've still got through it and got the result they needed.
Yeah, and they actually, as long as they're kind of at the point where they've got so many players out, right? At some point, their luck's got to turn, right? And at some point, others' luck has got to turn in the way that it's gone for Liverpool. Look, you laughed at me when I said Tottenham might win the FA Cup. I wanted to touch on this, right? But you have to admit, I know we hate it. They're looking good. Consistency a little bit, but wow, I've been impressed.
Yeah, no, they are looking good. They're not a usual Jose Mourinho team where they defend very, very solidly. They obviously their strengths have always been their attack, and I think Jose's had to kind of adapt and work with what he's got. So, I mean, you know, their front three of Bale, Kane and Son is just, you know, it's up there with Liverpool's front three and City's front three. You know, it's a very, very strong front three. I think where I worry for them is defensively, but Jose is a defensive minded manager. He will change the way that they defend and make it better. So they could be a very big threat. You know, I think obviously when we made our predictions, the window hadn't closed. So there was, you know, they hadn't signed in Bale yet. I think they'd only signed Doherty. So I was looking at that thinking, you know, they've not really improved on last year and they had a really bad year last year. I think where you'll see the challenge for Spurs is when they start getting injuries or, you know, some people coming down with COVID maybe. If they're having, you know, one of them front three, or especially Son or Kane, if one of them is out for a significant period of time, that's where they started to struggle last year. And I think that would happen again. I know they've brought in a backup striker, but, you know, he's not on the level of Kane, is he? So I think that you could see them easily start slipping down the table if you know, Kane is out for 3 or 4 weeks, or if Son's out for 3 or 4 weeks. I think that's where you'll see them struggle. If they can keep them both fit, then, you know, they could have a very, very strong season, and, you know, my heart might start to race a little bit. But it depends. I think, as I said, the season is so strange. You've got so much congestion in the fixtures. So if they can keep Son and Kane fit, that would be quite a surprise. But if they do, then they're going to be a big threat.
As you mentioned congestion, I'm just looking at Chelsea's fixtures here. Some hard games, but actually not the worst one in terms of tough games. But I mean, I think the congestion is something that's kind of looked at me. So obviously got a kind of couple of weeks break now with the international break. So hopefully players can get a bit of a rest. But when that comes back, so Newcastle away 21st of November, 24th of November, Rennes away, 29th of November, you've got 5 days until you're playing Tottenham at home. 2nd of December, so like 3 or 4 days later, Sevilla away. 5th of December, Chelsea versus Leeds. Then the 8th of December, Chelsea versus Krasnodar. Then the 12th of December, Everton versus Chelsea. Then the 15th and then the 19th. It is, I know it's been like this, but that is relentless, isn't it? So let's just hope Chelsea can stay fit. And
but the thing is, it's the same for everyone, isn't it? You know, every team's got to face that kind of fixtures. And it's going to be about rotation, and that squad depth, especially for the teams in Europe, is going to be so important. Having players you can rely on that might have to sit on the bench some games. And I don't think any team is going to have, you know, their strongest starting 11. You won't see that very often. Perhaps, you know, when you've got the games like today, you know, with City, Liverpool, that's the kind of games where you're like, right, it doesn't matter who we're playing next. It doesn't matter who we've just played before. We have to play the best team we possibly can. And I think it's going to be like that. So that, you know, the big games is when you'll see that's our strongest 11. But for, you know, even the mid-tier kind of games or, you know, some of the slightly tougher games in the Champions League, even like that Sevilla game, you know, you don't have to put out your strongest team, because you know that if you get an injury, that's 3 or 4 weeks potentially that you've got one of your key players out for, and you just have to be careful with it. And as I said, it's going to be especially for the teams in Europe, it's going to be such a tough season to cram all these fixtures in. It's all going to be about who can keep their top players fit for longer, which is
I think
strange.
that you raise a really good point there, right? You know, you look at, as a Chelsea fan, you look at those fixtures and you get nervous, but you've got to remember that everyone's in the same boat. You just got to rely on the manager to know what he needs to do. Lampard knows he needs to rest players, right? He's talking about resting the likes of Werner, even though he's on a scoring run. You wouldn't normally want to be rested or want to rest a striker like that, but it's important to do that because it's about playing a long game. So I think Lampard knows what he's doing, and at the moment it's looking promising for Chelsea. So anything else you wanted to pick out that I've not touched on or that we've not touched on?
No. As I said, you know, the result yesterday was just very good, especially considering, you know, that's a team that absolutely slapped us silly at the back end of last season. I think, you know, we're on such a good run at the moment. Things seem so positive and seem to be clicking now. The international break, I think, has come at the worst possible time for us. We're on a bit of a roll. But But no, I think, if we can keep this up, first game against Newcastle after the internationals, then yeah, we could be looking at a very good season. I think today's game is going to be massive to, what's going to happen this season. I think we'll see a bit more what City are about, because they've not had a great start.
Yeah.
We'll see if Liverpool can, maintain the fairly strong start they've had, bar that one game.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think today will tell us a lot about, that top two. And hopefully, if that game can finish as a draw, then we'll be all that bit closer, and hopefully we can actually make a challenge this season, which would be, probably I'd say it's 1 year ahead of schedule. For us to make a full-on title challenge. And it feels like a long time since we've done that. I know it's only been probably 3 or 4 years since we last won the league, but it's felt like a long time since we've actually been pushing for that. So hopefully, we can do that this year.
Yeah, I mean, I would close with the same. It all looks really positive for Chelsea. We can sometimes be over the top, like before the Liverpool game. We were like, oh yeah, Chelsea's going to play great. It's going to be lots of goals. But, it just looks like a great team at the moment. Lots of options. There are players that are dropping off here and there, and Lampard's managed to pull in other great players. Even with the slightest rotations, it still looks like such a great, strong, and just energetic and lively and fresh team, which I really like to see. Everything seems really positive at the moment. It sounds like the dressing room is positive too. Let's hope that can stay that way in terms of, if Chelsea go on a bit of a bad run or a bit of injuries. But really, really exciting to be a Chelsea fan at the moment. And I'm hoping that's going to continue, because it looks like the future's bright.
It certainly does. Future's blue.
Well, guys, that's all for today. We won't do a preview of Newcastle game just yet, because I know we've got the wonderful international break that everyone absolutely loves. But we'll do that in the coming kind of weeks. But please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know what you think about this Chelsea squad. Are we being too positive? Is there something that's worrying you about the Chelsea squad? Do you really think that Werner needs to be played in the centre? I know he's scoring a lot of goals at the moment, but could Chelsea get more out of him? And as Jamie picked up, are we worried about Hudson-Odoi? Would you love to see him get his opportunity? Or is that something he just needs to pick his game up and fight for? Let us know. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and hit that bell notification to be notified of any future videos that do come. Peace out.
Cheers, guys.